Alrighty, a very good evening. Welcome to The Blueprint, a show where we have conversations that shape the future. You know, I was just thinking about something just getting to the station today, and I remember a saying that I once came across, that the best way to predict the future is to actually create the future. And it got me thinking about how a lot of times success to a large extent can be predictable because more often than not, it has a path. And that is going to inform our conversation today. You know, I love having conversations with individuals that have forged a very admirable path. And you've seen their success evolve. You could literally, read about and hear about their evolution, and the opportunity that we get to actually have a one-on-one conversation with them is absolutely relished. So I'm very excited today because today's conversation is one that sits at the intersection of leadership, intentionality, impact, in a world that celebrates noise more than they celebrate depth, in a world that celebrates speed more than they celebrate direction. How do we build that career? How do we build that business? Can you tell me how you did it? Can you give me point 1, point 2, step 1, step 2? Can you hold my hand and take me on that journey? And that's exactly what today's conversation is about. I am going to be having a conversation with an absolutely remarkable woman whose profile is just so colorful, and I'm going to enjoy reading it out to properly introduce her. She is a highly accomplished lawyer and executive with decades of experience in corporate and commercial law, governance, and strategic business development. And even beyond that, with this experience, it is across the legal, shipping and logistics and oil and gas sectors. Her distinguished career includes several leadership roles at Total Energies, where she held key positions both in Nigeria and internationally. Now at Total Energies Upstream Companies Nigeria, she served as General Counsel and Executive General Manager of the Management Services Division, overseeing legal, audit, insurance, and anti-corruption compliance functions. Now, she was also the Chief Compliance Officer for the company's upstream operations in Nigeria. Her international tenure includes 3 years in Paris as Project Director within the affairs. You know what? I'm just going to go through that because I don't know that I can pronounce it properly. I tried to learn French. It wasn't working for me. Now, she has a couple of roles that she currently occupies. Chief Executive Officer, Voltaire Lifestyle Services Limited, the owners of GAIA Africa and GABI Lagos. Like I mentioned, her profile is so colorful. I enjoy these things because it already gives me a picture of the evolution of the career, the process that you took. But of course, I'm definitely looking forward to having a conversation with her. Her name is Mrs. Olatowun Candide-Johnson. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to your show.
Thank you for accepting this. I always take it as such a great opportunity because I understand your schedule must be packed with a lot of things. Just taking a look at your profile, I get that. And the fact that you were able to take out time to speak with us today, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so I just want us to just deep dive. But before that, could you speak French?
Un peu.
That's little, right?
Oui.
Oh, my days. At least I know that one. I tried to learn French. In fact, I started my French lessons in March. And I'm proud to say that I've attended class twice. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a matter of consistency, though.
I know.
That's what it is. And honestly, I'm speaking to myself as well because, even when you can speak the language, if you stop speaking the language, if you stop listening to the language, you'll lose it.
I know.
And you just won't be able to remember stuff.
Oh, my days.
Yeah.
I mean, I will try again.
You should.
For now.
It's a very beautiful language. So.
Okay. Now, just speaking about stopping, let's talk about starting, right? Let's take a look at the start of your story and your career. And for a lot of people, their stories didn't just start when their career started. It started way before that. It was a foundational part.
Absolutely.
And I want you to take us into that, because I believe that will enable us understand you better and understand your journey better. You know, what was it growing up, you know, as a young girl, as a teenager, as a young adult?
So I think as a young girl, so I'm the third of 4 children. And so I always kind of like see myself as the middle one. So I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm the glue of the family. But growing up was fun because I got to see my older sister and brother suffer a lesson while I was busy playing, which was great. And then as, you know, I think growing up in those days, I mean, I'm talking about sort of the late 60s to the mid 70s, or maybe even the late 70s. Yeah, no, the mid 70s.
Okay.
It was very different. I mean, it was lots of, you know, playing outside, you know, climbing trees, you know, going under the bushes to go to the next door neighbor. It was your, you know, your friends' parents admonishing you for doing stuff. And, you know, people, name mattered in those days, and you had to behave. So you kind of, when you grow up that way and you grow up with, you know, certain values, they don't leave you.
Absolutely.
I think that one thing that we all grew up with, you know, my brother and my sisters, is it was always that sort of, maybe the fear of disappointing our parents, and not that it was actually that fear of disappointment, because you just didn't want to be, you know, that child. So I think that sort of shaped me, and of course, you know, values that parents pass on to you. I always say that my mother's my hero because of her work ethic and just the way that she was. She was also a very, really kind person. So I'm getting there.
I love it.
I'm not quite there yet, but she was really kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. What would you describe your personality as?
Introverted.
Interesting. I find that very interesting, especially giving, of course, GAIA and seeing how it's heavily about, you know, networking, giving women a platform to thrive. So how you know what, before we get there, because I want to know like the entire process. So have you always been introverted?
Yes.
I've
been introverted to the point where I wanted to just be swallowed in the ground.
Oh no.
Yes. But I think what happened, you know, in the course of my journey, I've held the jobs that I've held. And those jobs have been very front facing.
Okay.
As a lawyer,
yes.
you're not going to hide, right?
Of course.
You have to advise people.
Yes.
And you have to be seen as a confident lawyer advising their client. And so I learned to manage my introversion in the sense that I will do what I have to do, but I always have to have my time alone.
I love that.
After that, to recover.
I love that.
So
I love that. And I love that because that in itself, that's a learning point for people who'd say, oh, but you know, I like to keep to myself. I'm introverted. Can I really talk to you?
I do love to keep to myself. I love my own company.
Yeah.
We can be quite dangerous because when you can get to a point where you really overlove your own company.
I know exactly what you mean.
And so you need to like come back to the real world.
Yeah.
But it's a growth thing, and I think you have to. I mean, like I was forced to manage my introversion because of the jobs that I had.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's fortuitous for me, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because now I can manage it and I can. Yeah.
And I like that because it also shows that the job must be done. Regardless of what you say your personality is.
Absolutely.
If this is the path that you have chosen, you
Otherwise,
do the job.
Don't do that, then,
Exactly.
So once you have it and you have to do it and you want to do it well.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. Now, just taking a look at your path into, the legal field, how did you decide on that? Was that influenced by something in particular? Was there a defining moment that led to that?
So I come from a family of lawyers.
Aha.
On both sides of my parents. And my brother's a lawyer. My younger sister's a lawyer. Although my younger sister doesn't practice.
Okay.
As I don't. So out of the four of us, only one of us was not a lawyer.
Okay.
My father was a lawyer. My uncles on his side.
Wow.
And my uncles on my mother's side. Well, my uncle on my mother's side. And so in those days, you had to be either a lawyer, doctor, engineer,
Absolutely.
or what was it? Or not one to be reckoned with or something.
Yeah.
So since law was in the family, I suppose it was I don't know, I didn't even really think about it. I just got into it. And my brother was already studying law, and it just seemed like a natural path, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just taking a look at how you also were somewhat in the corporate world as well, the positions that you held at Total Energies. And, I have a sister that works in the oil and gas sector, and we just always talk about how for a very long time it was a male-dominated environment, very aggressive, as, quiet as oil and gas is, because I know they don't do advertising. It is male-dominated. So, and we just always have that conversation all the time. What was that like for you? Being in that type of environment, did you ever feel like you had to prove yourself twice as much as your male counterparts, or were you just, going with the flow?
So I think that the kind of job that you do tends to matter. And if you are meant to be somebody who is almost a consultant, right? Because they're consulting me and I'm giving advice and I'm telling you which way we should go and which way. So that sort of, it makes it less, what's the word can I use? You feel it less because you are in a position of, I don't want to say position of power really, but you're in a little bit of an exalted position because people are looking up to you. They're looking to you to give the advice, right? So, yeah. But I did see that, it is, I mean, like also, apart from being a lawyer, I was also in the management. And so you can feel it a little bit more there, right? But I think that I just didn't really connect with any of that. And I say that not as something that was great, because I think there's politics everywhere.
Absolutely.
And you're better off learning and understanding how the politics works. I don't think that I did. And I don't think I ever did.
Oh,
because
really?
I remember when I first came back to Nigeria and I went to law school, and after law school it was youth corps. And I did my youth corps at a bank. I won't mention the name. I worked in the legal department. And at the end of the NYSC period, it was like they weren't going to retain me. And one of the reasons was because I didn't go from office to office greeting people. I was stuck up kind of thing. And that just wasn't me. I was shy. I mean, I'm an introvert. So for me, just stay in my office, do my work, get it done, and go home. So, yeah. So there are things that you have to understand, I suppose.
Absolutely.
But I think that they saved me.
And I want to know just your role within the oil and gas space. I want you to just tell us one of the most defining moments, or even if it's multiple defining moments, where you know that it influenced how you moved on your path towards success moving forward.
I would probably say that was when I took quite a risk when I was invited to join the Affaires Nouvelles division in Paris.
Affaires Nouvelles, okay.
So that's new business.
Okay.
And working in Affaires Nouvelles meant that it was buying and selling oil blocks, gas blocks, negotiations. And it was also because as project director, and there were several, depending on, and we all had different countries that we were looking at. You would have to lead a multidisciplinary team. So you would have people like petroleum architects, you would have the finance people, you have the economists, you'd have the people who actually find the oil, and you would also have lawyers. And then, depending on what it is, whatever I forget what they're called now, but anyway, the people who find the oil or the people who make the discovery.
Okay.
You then start to go into negotiations, etc. And I found that really, really exciting. First of all, because as a lawyer, I wasn't financially savvy, and so I had to actually learn about the economics of the business.
Absolutely.
And the financial aspects and all that sort of stuff, which then became very, very exciting. And I think that was for me, probably what gave me the confidence to decide that I need to go to business school, right? And I need to go and learn what it means to be able to actually run something. What are the things that I need to know? What things I need to understand? And I think it was from there.
Yeah.
Because I think I'd always probably wanted to, do something for myself, run something but I didn't want to do something in a small way. I didn't want to have a business from my home or anything like that. And I wanted to be able to understand and to challenge and to, just basically to know what works and what doesn't work.
Absolutely.
And so I think that was one big move. But, and having said that, it was a risk because I moved completely out of my comfort zone.
Wow.
And so that is one thing that I always advise people. I'm like, you know what? You have to take a risk. You do have to take a risk because when you take a risk, and, if you're young enough and you can fail, good.
Absolutely.
Because, you learn from your failure. But people tend to be a little bit reticent about, taking those risks. And I can't blame them, right? But it's the only way to move forward. It's the only way to grow, really. And, of course, failure also helps you grow.
I love that very much. And throughout this process, what would you say your mindset was like? Because I always like to understand the mindset that led to these decisions, right? Because there are times where you look at people and you see them take risks and you're just like, wow, if only I could. I wish I could.
I wish I was a bigger risk taker. I don't think I'm a huge risk taker.
Yeah.
But the mindset for me is, I think I don't like to be challenged.
Interesting.
Because once I'm challenged, I have to rise to that challenge.
So that's a good thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that really is, at the base of everything is like, oh gosh, you think I can't do it, right? I'm going to do it.
I like that
sort of thing. Yeah.
I like that. I feel like everyone should have that response to when we are challenged, right? Oh, you think I can't? You think that I can't, and then you want to go all out.
Yeah.
And you're not only proving to them, but most importantly, you're proving to yourself.
You're actually not even proving to them.
Right?
Because they don't even know that they have challenged you.
Oh, true.
They don't even know that for you, it's a huge risk, right?
Yeah.
Because for them, the bravado on the outside is, okay, let's go, let's do it.
Absolutely.
And so it really is about you.
Yeah.
And it's about, it's really just about you.
Wow. So, there's something that I know people have different ways of describing it. There are people who say fake it till you make it. There are people who say faith it till you make it. Okay. Right?
Oh, I've never heard that one before.
Yeah. So it's like, you believe that the Lord has purpose for you to have that. So maybe walk in line with that and eventually that will be your reality.
Right.
Have you ever been in a place where in your mind, for instance, you had mentioned that, sometimes when if you feel challenged, then you'd have to, rise up to that occasion. Have you ever felt in a way sometimes where you probably don't know how to do it? You've never done it before, but you take on the job?
For sure. Even the business that I'm running today.
Interesting.
I'd never run a business before.
Yeah.
Right? But I think what is interesting here is that for me to take something on, I like to prepare.
I like that.
I like to prepare. I like to understand, what are these waters that I'm sort of delving into. And I need to at least have an idea of what it is. And, also the fact that, so will you overcome this? Can you do this?
Yes.
So, yeah. And I think, going to Paris was a little bit of it was quite scary because of all the business things. But then I also felt that, other lawyers have probably done it and, they survived.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. I've gone into many things that I have not known about, but I try to prepare.
Yeah. And just speaking about preparation in itself, one of the things that I've found that sort of empowers me, because you had said you've thought, well, I'm sure other lawyers have done it, and so I can do it. One of the things that empowers me is when I'm able to see women in that position. Did you see that?
For that particular job?
For that particular job. Women who maybe had done it or even done something similar to that.
There were definitely women who had done it, and there were a few women in, like, when I joined, there were definitely a few women doing it. And so, but it wasn't really the women thing. It was more because those women are skilled financial people, skilled this, skilled that. So I really wasn't pitting myself against them, right?
Yes.
I was pitting myself against, okay, so you've had a legal career for all your life and you've managed to do this. Okay, I can do it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that very much. And I'm just still speaking about seeing people who've done it as well. What role did role models play for you? Because I know that it's not until maybe like 3 years ago that I actually realized or agreed that there's a place for mentorship. I just always felt like, because it takes me time for me to be comfortable with people.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, if I have a mentor, like, well, how is it going to be? How are we going to be having our meetups? And so for me, I felt like that held me back for so long until I realized that, oh my goodness, there is a place for mentorship. This is what I realized, and I've seen how that's helped. Was that the same for you? Did you ever see mentorship as part of your equation for success? Was that really ever at the back of your mind at all? And did you ever use that moving forward?
If I say, the truth is that the answer for me is no.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that
absolutely.
it isn't a good thing. But it just didn't really feature in my path, right? I did have, I certainly had, like, friends or like a particular colleague that I would like bounce things off, who would encourage me and that sort of thing. But I would say that I think my greatest cheerleader is my husband, to be honest.
That's beautiful.
Yeah? And also because, the kind of work that I had, leave early, come back late, and then I went to live in Paris, and I came back, then I went to live in Abuja, then I came back. Yeah. So, you need somebody who actually
absolutely
is reasonable to be, moving. And even when I was here, I was jetting around. We traveled a lot.
Absolutely.
For work. And so you do need somebody who's really understanding and who actually, wants you to succeed. So that's that I think is where I had, like lots of support.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just going throughout.
Rather than mentorship, my thing is sponsorship. I find that sponsorship is just so much more powerful.
That's amazing.
Than
Now, for some people, because we have spoken about this on the Blueprint in the past, but I just want you to speak about that, the difference between mentorship and sponsorship and how people can get a sponsor.
So mentorship is very much about sort of walking with your mentee, but you're very much generally telling them how you did stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? And to be honest, if we think about it, I mean, like, if I think about even my eldest child, she did not grow up in the world that I grew up in, right? So it's a little bit difficult to be saying you need to do what I did.
This is how we did it. But things are not like that.
Exactly. They're just not like that anymore. So I think to be a guide is not a bad thing.
Yes.
Especially if you can think sort of more currently. But I think sponsorship is much more powerful, and I find that sponsorship, I suppose it's easier when you're in a corporate setting where people see your work, and where people in maybe executive capacity know what the job openings are and know where you can fit in, and they speak about you when you're not in the room, but also they expose you, right? Exposing people who are within your purview or whatever, people who you're supposed to be leading, is really important, because when you expose people and everybody else sees that, sees their work, you don't have to do a lot of work. You just sit back and you're like, I'm putting somebody forward for promotion, and everybody's like, actually it's true, because, So, but it's really, having that person sort of take you by the hand and put you in those rooms where those decisions are being made, and speaking about you. And then I suppose it happens in entrepreneurship as well, because you could have a sponsor who takes you by the hand and finds you funders, right?
Absolutely.
And they find you people who will fund your business and stuff like that because they have absolute trust in you and those people have trust in them. Doesn't happen very often, but people may be lucky to find that.
Okay, and just taking a look at if people had the opportunity, how do they identify those people that they know would be beneficial for them in terms of sponsorship? Because is it just anyone that is maybe a C-suite exec or
no?
So how
and I think you see. You can't wake up and decide that somebody's going to be a sponsor. I think you have to either have a relationship already or cultivate a relationship.
Absolutely.
But I think that we have a little bit of a problem here because of our culture.
Yes.
So if a man is sponsoring a woman, there could be some difficulty there because, you need to sit down and have lunch with your sponsor or whatever, and then you don't want tongues wagging because, so that can be a little bit difficult. But it's really to have, people who are influential and who could possibly help you, but then people who you either have a relationship with or people who you can, in fact, cultivate a relationship with. And honestly, mentorship, sponsorship, everything is a two-way street. Mm-hmm. You can't just, be relying on people just to do, you pop up whenever you want something. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So, it's a relationship and it's give and take.
And what would you advise people in terms of building a relationship? Mm-hmm. Because there are people who just don't I don't know what to do. Okay, do I say good morning, ma? Do I say happy new month? What am I going do I? And because there are times when people are just why is this person messaging me? So, but how do you advise that, you do it with wisdom? How? Okay, practically, what does that look like? Cultivating a relationship with people that could potentially be your sponsor.
So I think first of all is, trying to understand who they are. Right? So you need to know who this person is. You need to know what it is that they do, what it is they like to do, what it is they're looking to do. And then maybe you then start to, maybe you ask if you could have a meeting with them. Mm. You have the first meeting and, you are asking them how you can help. Can I, follow you around or whatever? Or can I do something for you, whatever it is, right? And then, and then just staying in touch. Because, people tend to disappear.
Yes.
And then 2 years later, they pop up when they need something.
Exactly.
Dude, that's just not going to work. No.
Yeah.
So you have to be consistent with relationships. And relationships is hard work.
Yeah.
It's like any relationship.
Absolutely.
It's hard work. But when you do find somebody who actually then takes an interest in you and wants to help you, it becomes less hard.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Now let's talk about GAIA. Mm-hmm. Right? I want you to tell us the why behind GAIA and how did you find that why? Because I feel like whys are very important. I remember listening to Simon Sinek and he just always talks about the why. And I feel like that's sort of helped me define my path. Mm-hmm. So for you, how did you find that why? What's the why, behind GAIA?
So GAIA didn't just happen. What actually I was trying to build before GAIA even popped into the space was an arts club called the Voltaire Arts Club.
Interesting.
And the arts club was also a private members club. Mm-hmm. And it was basically going to be focusing on, everything on that spectrum of the arts.
Yes.
So art, music, design, fashion, style, whatever. But what was interesting was that I didn't take a break after I left, my corporate job. Mm-hmm. I jumped into this thing. I was just so gung-ho, wanting to do this. And I made a lot of mistakes because I immediately found I pretty much immediately found a space for this club, started marketing. I was holding events all with my own money. And doing all kinds of things and not really starting from, the base and the structure and everything. There was a structure. I had everything in my head. But I did too many things too early and I spent too much money too early. And I had two investors. Mm-hmm. And after all the money finished, I couldn't exactly go back to them to say, actually, the money is gone.
Oh,
so
my
blah,
days.
blah. Anyway,
Yes.
I asked if did they want me to refund their money? So I basically took the loss because they said no. They're keeping it. They invested in me. Boom, no pressure. So what I found, when I was working on the arts club was the fact that when the financial modeling was being done, when the financial consultants were talking about, finding us investors, all the investor lists never had a woman on it.
Interesting.
And I found that really bizarre because this was 2017. And not that I ever raised any money through my financial consultants, but I found it just it was actually disturbing because I thought this is 2017, not 1817. And there are many women who are accomplished and many women who should be on these lists.
Yes.
Right? And that's really when I started to think, you know what, we need to get women together because this is just not working.
Yes.
And I thought that, if I brought women together for the purpose of talking about business and what you want to do and where you want to go, that it would make a difference. And that was, and the why was basically because it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Women were not connecting for business. They were connecting, all right. And
yes.
you see women and we can talk.
Yeah,
talk
we
non-stop,
can. Yes.
but we were not connecting for business. And I was, I wondered why there's so many accomplished women. There's so many women doing all kinds of amazing, fabulous things.
Yeah.
Many, many quiet women. And I just really wanted to unearth these things. And I wanted to bring women together to be able to unearth, synergies amongst themselves. And so that's basically how GAIA was born. And we started with things like, I had a blueprint. Oh, yeah. Excuse the pun. I actually had a blueprint. So I knew exactly what it was going to be.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to have a clubhouse. I knew we were going to have mini clubs. I knew we were going to do. So we started with what we called the business dining club.
Okay.
And we would hold business dining clubs in different restaurants, spaces, wherever I could find.
Yeah.
Basically, bring women together. We would all the time we would have a guest speaker talking about something, maybe about her life, maybe her entrepreneurial journey, something that would inspire and challenge other women. And then the idea was, exchanging ideas, telling people, telling other women what you want to do and how can they help you, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really how it evolved. And I started looking for a space. And I found one in, I think it was June 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And negotiated a long lease. No, 2018 actually. Okay. Because I think we're 2 years in before COVID struck, and I was I was now scratching my head thinking, oh boy, year 3.
Wow.
Because you're paying rent all this time. But there was a huge amount of work to do on that piece of property, and I had a fabulous architect, just as anal as I am.
Yeah.
So it worked well, and and so we just kept going. We had the business dining club, we had the arts club, we had arts and culture club, which is one of our things. We started a French club.
Interesting.
And then I started adding people to the team, and we were working out of one of these shared spaces for a while. And and then in August of 2021, was when we had the big hiring, because at that point we had gone pretty far with the not renovation, what they call it, remodeling. Mm-hmm. And so it was now, okay, this is real now. We need to get all these people in. But there were lots of things that were kind of like an afterthought.
Yes.
I knew we had to have a restaurant, but I really wasn't thinking in terms of, I was thinking, but I didn't really understand how that was going to work.
Yes.
And boy, running a restaurant.
I can only imagine.
Gabby Lagos. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
But then you don't actually even understand what goes into it, because because it's a restaurant, so it's open every day except for Monday. Oh. So there's shift work.
Okay.
You have to accommodate people. You have to get people from place A to place B.
Absolutely.
You have to have inventory. You have to have all kinds of gadgets that,
the full works.
the full shebang. So it's 3 businesses in one, really, because we have the club. We have, actually it's 4 businesses in one, because we have GAIA Africa, the members club. We have GAIA House, which has function rooms, which people can have events at.
Mm-hmm.
We have Gabi Lagos, and then we have the Amalfi massage and facial room.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's pretty.
I like that, and I like that very much. And so far, would you say, if you look back, right, would you say that you are exactly where you envisioned in terms of your career, bringing GAIA to life, and would you say that this is where you envisioned?
No, because I wasn't. Remember, so 2 things. One thing was sure: I wasn't going to retire at retirement age. Right.
Okay.
In fact, that job was the longest job that I ever held, and I was quite surprised myself. But working in an international company is very, it can be like you're working in different companies because you're doing different things.
Yes.
Or you're living in another country, or you're doing So I was there for like 20 years. So I didn't expect that.
Wow.
I knew, and when I knew, as I said, I went back to school because I knew that I had to understand how to do things.
Yes.
And I think after that, and it was exhausting, by the way, it was such a challenging time in my life. But it happened. And so, no, I didn't envision that I would be running a members club.
Yeah.
I don't know what I thought I'd be doing after, because I took voluntary retirement. But I took voluntary retirement because I knew I was going to do something else. But actually, by the time I was leaving, I think I was burnt out and I didn't even know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know what? I want us to sit on that for just a few seconds. When did you know it was time? Because I'm sure there are people who even currently are listening now and they're like, I don't know, should I, I've spent 5 years. Okay, maybe I spend an extra 5. Should I leave now? If I put it on my CV, will it look like I'm just hopping from place to place? People sometimes want to know when it's time to move. How did you know when it was time, and when can people realize that it's time to actually move on?
Well, it's an individual thing,
yes.
First of all. But I think what happened with me is that as I said, I went to do this EMBA, and when we were in module 2, there's 6 modules. It was in Stern, and we did things like corporate finance, strategy. Those 2 really stood out to me because when we did strategy and when we did, I think it was strategy and entrepreneurship. No, we didn't do it. Yeah, we did entrepreneurship, actually.
Okay.
And, you read a lot of case studies. And that was the first time that I realized that there was a world outside of my corporate life.
Yes.
I really did not even, because my job was so my schedule was very heavy. I really didn't have time to stay in touch with friends. It was just always a constant, it was work, even on holiday. So, when we actually went through those case studies, I thought, wow, these guys have only one head now, like me. So why is it that I can't do this as well? And especially when we read the case studies about women. So like we read Rent the Runway. I don't know if you've heard of that brand.
Absolutely.
And I just thought, wow. And
Absolutely.
The way it happened, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna have to think about this one now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that very much. And whilst we're just wrapping up, because I have a few other questions I want to ask, I want to know what role your faith played in this entire journey so far. What role in general has your faith played?
I mean, if you're a person of faith, you're a person of faith, right? So for sure that at every point in time, you're having conversations.
Absolutely.
So when you can't turn to anybody else, you know who you can turn to.
Absolutely.
Turn to God. So that's basically what I would say about that. It's just for me, faith is a very personal thing,
Absolutely.
and I don't really subscribe to a lot of like external, what is the word?
Show.
Oh,
yeah.
Because truly, I mean, even the Bible says it, only the Lord knows who is
Absolutely
who is following him. Because I've had experiences with people who will talk,
Absolutely.
and then like next minute you're like, whoa,
there's something completely
same person.
Absolutely opposite.
So, show me the way you live your life, and I think that's for me a good thing.
I love that so much, and it's been so beautiful hearing your story so far. So before I let you go, so we're going to be doing something a bit relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think. So
this
I'm
was
sure
relaxing already.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So I'm sure you've probably heard of Gen Z slangs. There are some slangs that you've probably heard, maybe even heard from your children or people around.
Mm-hmm.
And you might know what it means or you might not know. So I'm going to be asking you some of those very quickly, right?
I am
before we get to that, don't worry.
Well, she's laughing.
But before we get to that, right? I just got thinking, there are times where I see maybe some of my friends who are, accomplished,
mm-hmm.
right? And I've watched them grow. I've watched their trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
But then I know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I know how goofy they are. When you step into the office, you'll be seeing people say, yes, ma. Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
Yes.
know? So that brings me to asking you this. What type of girl are you? Like, if I ask your girlfriends, like, what type of girl is she? What do you think they're going to say?
Dry. Highly dry.
Oh my days.
I like what I like, and I
love
do what
it.
I like.
It's like dry.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, let's get into the Gen Z slangs.
Okay.
So you don't have to think too deeply about it. Maybe like the first thing that comes to your mind, just let me know what it is. What does delulu mean?
What?
Delulu.
Je ne sais pas. I do not know. I do not know. What? Delulu?
Delulu.
Delusional?
Absolutely.
No way.
I'm telling you.
Oh, wait. Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What's main character energy?
Is it a word?
It's a statement, like a description.
Okay.
She has main character energy.
Okay, like an A personality type thing?
Ish, maybe like a center of attraction type thing, So like a main character, you like to be the main character in every situation, in every setting. Yeah.
Interesting.
Soft life. What does that mean?
Soft life.
Yeah.
Enjoyment.
I love that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you did. You got it.
It has to be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So before you leave, I want you to just, in maybe 3 words, tell us 3 things that will be a part of your blueprint to success. Just any 3 things.
Ooh. I would say that just boils down to values.
I like that.
And the first thing I would say is authenticity. You have to be really who you are, and people should really know who you are.
Absolutely.
What they see is what they get. I love that. That's the first thing. I would say, take risks. Calculated risks.
I love that.
Okay. And the third thing would be kind. And I say be kind because there's not enough kindness in the world.
Absolutely.
And generally when you're kind, it comes back to you.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's very often going to be kind back to you. And the world is already a wicked place, sadly. Yeah. I mean, you just have to look around. And so, if the more kindness we can see in the world, I think it would make it a better place. And it certainly is a route to success because, if you haven't been awful and wicked to people, I figure that, some good things ought to happen for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have to be dogged about the things that you want and you have to see it. Honestly, the truth is, it's true. If you can see it, you can do it. And I would just, as a parting word, one of the things I used to do was like walk around the clubhouse in my head before it actually was done.
Wow.
Even though on the one hand I'll be crying that this is never going to happen, and why did I bother? I would do that, and I think that was one of the things that helped me as well. So you need to see it, and you need to see that vision. And there's so many things. Okay,
wow.
But to lock yourself into that vision, and be razor focused about getting there. And I think that's what I would say is a parting shot.
Ladies and gentlemen, and that was the story. And I'm just that's the little part of the story, because obviously I'm sure we can't tell your story in just an hour. But a part of your story, which I believe has been enlightening, and it will to an extent be also a guide for a lot of people who are trying to just figure it out, and just seeing that you did it anyways, whether or not you knew how to do it, you just kept moving. And that's one thing that I've learned from today. You just kept moving. Yeah. And the more you moved, the more it made more sense. The more the picture made more sense and it came to life.
Yep, you learn as you go along.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Olatowun Candide-Johnson, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed myself.
I'm glad you did. Now, for those who might want to either follow you, follow GAIA, want to learn more about GAIA, how can they do that?
Oh, so GAIA has a website, www.GAIA Africa, GAIA Africa.
Okay.
Club.com. We're also on Instagram, GAIA Africa, and we're on LinkedIn, GAIA Africa Club. Yeah. And I am on Instagram.
It's
Olatowun_CJ, I think. Yes. Sorry, I'm not very good with my Instagram.
No, so, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm better with LinkedIn. So
that's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
I'm looking forward to, hopefully I'll bring you back into the studio at some point.
Well, I look forward to that.
All right. Thank you to everyone who was a part of the show today. Remember that The Blueprint happens Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Make it a date with us. Now, if you'd like to rewatch or re-listen to this episode, we're going to be putting it up on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel, that's Lagos Talks 913. So go check it out, subscribe to our channel, comment, share, all that good stuff. You can reach out to me on Instagram and on TikTok at Ify_I, that is IFY_I. Thank you so much once again for being a part of the show today. The live drive continues. Remember, this is your home of conversation, Lagos Talks 91.3. Stick around.